everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. For come rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Ace Edwards, right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And, it's rare that I remember earlier this week, you and I jokingly said, well, we'll only have to record one more episode this week after the Colorado recap. Well, things have happened, as you're no doubt aware of if you're listening to this show. So this is going to go up the night that we are recording it. In fact, probably right after we're done recording it and I get it edited, it'll just go straight up because there's no reason to sort of delay or belabor the point. But it was an eventful signing day for K-State. Not only because it's signing day, so that's a big time for those who follow recruiting, but the K-State football head coach, Chris Klieman, announced his retirement today. And we can kind of go step by step through the story if we would like. But to me, let's go step by step in the story, because you get the impression, I'm not going to speak for you, Connor, nor am I going to speak for the audience, but I get the impression that this was not supposed to be released today.
I would wholeheartedly agree, and I think most people probably would, given that I think there's a Pete Nakos tweet that said that K-State had a previously scheduled team meeting for 4 p.m. and then it got moved to 2. Then they had their presser that was scheduled for 11 a.m. That they moved to 4. So there was already stuff that was set up. I imagine Klieman was going to tell the team today, and they just didn't want to publicize it on National Signing Day. And then he was probably going to announce either tomorrow or Friday, if I had to guess. I'm not plugged into the athletic department. I'm kind of making educated guesses based on the info that has come out. But so I do feel for them a bit on that front, because I think that they wanted to handle it a little bit differently, and it was probably sprung on them a bit by the report leaking from Ned Seaton, the Mercury, and
this is not the first time that he has done something like this.
Yeah, he does not like sitting on things there. So I guess he can do what he wants with the information, but it's not maybe what I would have done. But despite that, I do think it's fair to say that this transition is a rarity in modern college football, and that this was one of the more amicable kind of announcements of retirement or a coach leaving a program that I've seen in a while. We've even here at K-State, we have had plenty of more contentious retirements, or ones that just haven't felt as smooth. But this one, it really felt like coach did not get pushed at all. And he's honestly, he seemed a bit relieved, I think. In the presser, he had a little pep in his step, I think. Not like he's like, oh, I'm free, but like it seems like it was really starting to get to him, the commitment, the way the game is going, and just I don't know, I guess the lifestyle of it. But I think he said that he's a piece, which I know earlier in the presser, he said he told the players that, this isn't a funeral, but then he said that, and I was like, now you're kind of making it like sound like a funeral.
Yeah, I think the order was reversed. I think he said he was at peace first, and then said, guys, you can speak up. This isn't a funeral. Like, this isn't it for me. But yeah, I was excited to hear that he was sort of at peace with his decision. Didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, it's totally fine. It definitely, I think, it seemed like he was in a good spot with that. I was interested in Gene Taylor's comments on the timeline. He seemed pretty open on it. Again, we don't know 100% if it's the full story, but I mean, he reached out to him Sunday, asked to meet on Monday, Gene to Klieman. Then Klieman brought up retirement in the meeting, and it sounds like Gene didn't push super hard to like convince him otherwise. Once he had like kind of made his choice, which it sounds like was either Monday or Tuesday, then they were going to announce later in the week. But of course, it trickled out, and with it being National Signing Day, of course, that's not like a loose thread that you can just leave laying there, because it's not a particularly good day for that sort of thing to leak out. It might be the worst. So, which I know that, signing day is less and less binding as time goes on, with, a coach leaving. You get a 30-day portal entry window, no matter what. But still, everybody signed, which I was honestly a bit surprised by. I figured there might be a couple holdouts with the uncertainty, but credit to the recruiting staff, and I suppose also to Klieman on keeping everybody together there. But yeah, I don't know. It was a good presser. Klieman definitely seemed a bit more relaxed than he has in a while, and it was pretty emotional too. Like you could tell that it was kind of bittersweet. Like he knew it was time. But you could tell that if he could just coach and not have to do anything else, like they used to in the pre NIL portal days, he'd still be doing it, but it's just not possible anymore. And I think he knows that. So it's a bittersweet, but full understanding and consent, I guess.
And I do want to give Klieman his flowers, not only because I do think that as time passes, people will look very favorably on his coaching tenure. And I mean, you and I talked about this in the middle of the season, that the worst possible outcome for Klieman's legacy if he becomes the reason why Colin Klein didn't end up in Manhattan, Kansas. We'll talk about that in a second. That gets its own time. Let Klieman have his damn 10 minutes. But I think that people will look back on his legacy as, Big 12 champion, consistent winner who, towards the back end, it's very hard for any coach to sort of go out on top. And because just by the nature of how personalities fit and what personalities become head coaches, once they get to the top, they either don't think that they're going to fall, or they think that they can continue to keep up that level of greatness. So I think in a lot of ways, the humility that Klieman showed to say, hey, maybe it is my time. It's my time. I'm going to spend time with my family after coaching for so long. I think that it is time. But I do agree with you, and I think Gene Taylor agrees with you, that if NIL didn't exist, if the transfer portal was the way it was before 2021, 22
ish. Yeah, COVID's a pretty convenient dividing line because the redshirt rule changed in 2018, and the portal kind of evolved into what it is in 21, 22. So, when people look back in 40 years, COVID's going to be a convenient, there's the split.
Yeah, well, I think you and I can divide our lives between pre and post COVID as well. So
I imagine we're not alone in that.
Yeah, God. But if I do agree with you that he would be here a lot longer, but there has to be credit given to someone who realizes, it's time. This isn't the game for me anymore, because to me there are very little things that are as sad as trying to see someone recapture old glory in a system that doesn't work for them anymore. Like that to me is like the ultimate whimper to go out on. And you can say what you want about this season. I mean, you and I have gone on record calling this season an abject failure. But that doesn't mean that I personally view Chris Klieman as a failure, and I know you don't either. I think Chris Klieman is, at the very minimum, a good person who is a good coach at K-State, who got caught up in a tumultuous time and did the best with what he could in that time period. And he was put in one of the most unenviable situations that you could ask a coach to, and that's coaching after a legend in Bill Snyder. So people have said it, but I really do think that Klieman did an amazing job in his tenure here, despite the warts that there certainly were. And I'm not downplaying them, but I am happy that the Klieman era happened.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, like we think back to the first time that Bill retired in 2005, like the Prince era, like really tore down most of what Bill had built. Although I know that the program kind of was on the decline towards the end of Snyder 1.0. But Klieman, there was really no skip or like gap or anything in the quality of the program. From like there's no downgrade here from Klieman. Like Klieman, like we can look back on it now and like say it was obvious. And this was not something that I ever thought of as like being a major question. But I think for a lot of older fans, like this was a genuine like anxiety point, was they had not seen a coach ever be successful the sport of football at K-State outside of Bill Snyder. And Chris Klieman was the very first really to do it consistently at a high level. I mean, there's been very, very like small blips on the radar a long time ago, but in the modern era of football, Chris Klieman proved that you don't have to be named Bill Snyder to be a successful football coach at K-State. And that carries a lot of weight, I think, for a lot of people in the fan base and maybe for K-State's reputation at large nationally. And so that does matter. I mean, again, I think back to how I felt when we were in that first coaching transition and Klieman ultimately was hired. That wasn't something I was as worried about. But that was a point of concern for a lot of K-State fans. And obviously it'll be a point of concern going forward, just generally seeing the program continue to perform at a high level. But, Coach Klieman really did a great job. I mean, if this year goes down as his worst year, which it probably will outside of COVID.
COVID doesn't count.
Yeah, and I don't hold COVID against him. Like it's just that was just a wacky, weird season that shouldn't have even happened.
No.
But like there were still things to look back on in this season. Again, not trying to justify, not meeting expectations, like just trying to say, now the Klieman era is over. Like everything we're kind of looking at is a little bit rosy now. And for good and for bad. But I think we can mostly remember Klieman as a guy that kept K-State performing at a high level and beat some really good football teams and won a conference championship. He's only the second coach to win a Big 12 championship at K-State. So he joined some pretty elite company there. And think about some of the players that came out of this program as well. Cooper Beebe, Felix Anudike Uzama, Deuce Vaughn, like some all-time, no doubt K-State legends are Klieman products through and through. Jace Brown is going to go down as one of the best K-State receivers this century. Avery Johnson, one of the most highly regarded recruits that we've ever had. DJ Giddens, of course, too. There's been so many great players that have come through this program under Coach Klieman and a few of them are going to be Ring of Honor type players. Klieman, I think, has a decent argument for that as well with his resume. I mean, one of two coaches to win a Big 12 title at K-State. Granted, we've only had 3 coaches that have coached during the Big 12 era at K-State. But regardless, that was no small feat, especially how we got there that season, because that was a really, really fun season in hindsight. So I wish we could have done it a bit more on his terms, but yeah, happy that he's getting to go out with dignity and support.
I will always be nostalgic about the Klieman era just because he was the coach during the entirety of my undergrad at K-State. And I think you were 1 year short because you're a year older than I am. So you got the last year of Snyder and then 3 years of Klieman. But I will always be nostalgic just because when I think of Klieman, I probably won't think much about the clunkers of, against Tulane, who ended up being good, against Army, against Arizona State last year. I'm going to think of, even games, if we want to include losses, I will still think about that Texas game because that environment was crazy. I'll think about the Oklahoma game my freshman year. I'll think about, the TCU game 2 years ago where it was insanely loud. The weird UCF game where it was weirdly loud. Yeah, most of my memories of Klieman will be positive, despite me being critical of him as a coach in the previous year. And I'm not going to start the rant. I've already had the rant of coach versus person. If you want to go hear that rant, there's no point to it now. I mean, but yeah, I want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier is it was impressive for the signing day class to stick together. And 17 of the 23 are going to be early enrollees. But I think a significant reason why the signing class is going to stick together is everyone kind of knows who the next coach is going to be. And the people that are freaking out because of Gene Taylor, oh God, I don't really want to touch Gene Taylor's presser afterwards. I think that's its own can of worms. I think people have the right to be concerned about what Gene said at the beginning, specifically about college football as a whole. I'm not going to touch that right now. But despite Gene Taylor saying, we haven't talked to anyone, we don't have any candidates in mind for the head coaching position. First off, I never believed him. And it was just the comment at the end is like, I don't know. I don't even know if I have Colin Klein's number anymore. And then he just got this grin on his face. So you're not having to sell uncertainty because there's like a 97% chance that the next head coach at Kansas State is Colin Klein.
Yeah, it was definitely funny to like just kind of see Gene just like kind of lie through his teeth. I mean, no disrespect to Gene on that, but I do not believe him. Like him not having Colin's number. I mean, obviously he was joking, but I don't really believe them on the they haven't had contact. I mean, it's possible he hasn't personally, but I'm sure that either someone at the AD or someone authorized to represent the AD as an agent or as a proxy has almost certainly reached out to Colin. Regardless, I'm pretty confident that the Klein family stays apprised of the happenings around the football program at K-State. So I'm not really I'm not thinking at all, or I'm not worried at all about Gene's comments. That sounded like pretty like straightforward like HR talk. Like like he got some PR prep before that meeting and he followed the line. Like that doesn't bother me at all. Like
especially because now you have Tremaine Thompson on Twitter saying welcome back, Colin Klein.
Yeah, like there's like just people like very just like outwardly like talking about it. I get why Colin may not like necessarily want that because I don't think he wants to distract from like the rest of A&M's season, and also the bowl situation in K-State. Like if Klieman will or won't coach that, because I'd kind of assume that he would, but in his presser he like it seemed pretty final, and like he was like, "I'll also hang around for a few days," and I was like, "Okay, well, if we play a bowl game, it's going to be
In like a
more
month.
than a few days, like
Yeah.
from now. Like we don't even know which one we're in yet. So like that's something to consider, or I suppose even if we play in one. But outside of that, I don't know. But oh, one thing I did want to mention about Kleiman's presser that I didn't earlier uh, was apparently there were a ton of coaches present from other sports at K State, which I thought was really interesting and also speaks a lot to how highly Coach Kleiman's thought of. Um, I suppose like his reputation and level of character is part of the like reason I think that you and I were kind of quick to defend him after the Utah game, at least in terms of his character. Like we never said don't criticize like how the team's performing or like things like that, but it was always about the personal with us at least. So, but I bet that probably was a pretty great feeling for him. I mean, to have so many athletic department staffers and coaches from other sports present there. I mean, I know the track and field director Travis Geffert, like he is here because of Coach Klieman. Like when the job came open, like Klieman recommended Geffert like seek out the job, and obviously we're a track school now with like all the talent that we brought in. So like uh, I guess I'm talking a lot of circles around it, but I think basically I'll definitively say on Klieman, it's very obvious that he had the best interests of K-State in hand and in mind making this choice. Because if he didn't, then he'd probably just phone it in and coach another year. Like, but that's just kind of not who he is as a person. I don't know him, I've never spoken to him, but I'm inferring some character traits here based on his actions, and I feel pretty comfortable doing that based off what we know. So, yeah, I'm happy for him. But yeah, Gene was real shaken up about it too, and he talked at length about the state of the game and kind of the I suppose the lawlessness of kind of college football right now. Which, I mean, that's going to be the front of his mind. I get that because he's the AD. Like,
Yeah,
so
it's I don't like the timing of it. To me, it's like that. There's a time and a place, and that wasn't the place. Like I can agree with what he's saying in principle, and just say, dude, why the hell are you bringing this up now?
yeah, that's fair. Like, because he did say that he wanted to like have this be kind of like Kleiman's deal, and I don't know if he intended to do it, but it was obvious that he was really emotional himself. Like, I mean, because Lyman and Gene like are really good friends outside of work, so it was an emotional moment for Gene too. So I guess maybe it's possible he didn't mean to kind of go off on that tangent and just like kind of started ranting because like he was just very emotional. Either that or like he was angry about it. He's like, because I'd still be working with my friend if it wasn't for like this reason. So I get it, But I do think you're right. It maybe wasn't the best time to go on a full-fledged rant. I don't mind him bringing it up because, like, at its core, it was relevant to be like, this is a reason that he retired at, his retirement press conference. Like, there is no better place to mention that. But I think he went a little bit too far, but I'll cut him some slack because, again, I know it's probably been a tough few days for a lot of people around the department. But, yeah, it was interesting, if nothing else. Shout out Taylor Bratt as well for handling the signing day presser. He did pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, no, he did awesome, which, who's surprised that Taylor Bratt did well.
No enjoyer of talking Taylor Bratt.
Yeah. Colin Klein is in all likelihood going to be the next head coach at K-State. And there are a lot of ways that I think people are going to feel about that. And I think okay, have you ever seen, what is it, The Graduate?
I don't think so.
Okay. At least if I'm thinking of the right movie, this is going to be a deep cut where I hope that this doesn't end up like the ending of The Graduate, where these two spoilers for a movie that was made in like 1970, but this younger man, this older woman run off after the older woman decides not to get married to someone else, and they decide like they're going to get married. The last scene of the movie is them sitting on a bus and looking at each other like, wait, what the hell do we do now? I think the initial response of the fan base is correct. Not correct, but is good to Colin Klein being the head coach. The prodigal son returns home. Someone who played at K-State, played at a high level at K-State, probably should have won the Heisman that year, and brought a Big 12 championship to K-State as a player, and then brought K-State to a Big 12 championship as the offensive coordinator. If this was like a Disney movie, that's all you would need. You wouldn't need to go anything past. Like, this would be the ending of the story, and you would just assume everything worked out beautifully afterwards. And don't misunderstand, this is not me trying to be a wet blanket, because I do think that the Colin Klein hire is probably the absolute best hire that K-State could have, A, realistically made, and B, it's about what everyone wanted. With that said, he is going to be a first-time head coach. There are going to be growing pains. I think that he is the type of person that can deal with them, but I don't expect K-State to light the world on fire in year one of the Klein era. I would love to be wrong. And I'm not saying that next year's team will be bad. I think that next year's team will be about equal, if not better, to this year's team, at least in terms of results. But I'm very excited for the hire. And like I said, I think it's the best one that K-State could have made. And again, we're speaking theoretically. Nothing has been confirmed unless you're Tremaine Thompson on Twitter.com. But I'm happy. And now I'm just interested to see where it goes. Because I think after you say your piece, that sounds like really diminishing of what you're going to say. I didn't mean it to sound like that. We have to talk about the roster retention part of it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was a little distracted. I was thinking about this astrology person that talked about Colin Klein and K-State being in symmetry. Or no, sun and moon synastry. And we have the same north node, obsessive focus. Yeah, K-State.
I think Colin Klein might call her a demon if he ever hears of that.
I think he would. He's an interesting guy, but if he wins football games, that's okay. K-State's Chiron is also in great hands, conjunct Klein's Venus plus Pluto conjunction. There's some shorthand going on here that I'm not grasping. The point is that the stars say that us and Colin Klein are buddies. basically. So that's the best I can do on.
Yeah, anyway, so what do you think of the alleged hire of Colin Klein?
I mean, I totally agree with you. It's the obvious choice for K-State. I don't think that, well, I should say it's unlikely that we would make a, on paper, better hire in the eyes of the fans. I've seen a few people say it already, but this is kind of the one hire that's going to kind of unite everybody in the fan base. I mean, this is going to get everyone from the most doomer of doomers in K-State group chats and on the message boards to, the person who's absent-mindedly liking like fake AI slop in the K-State family Facebook group. Like, everyone's going to be happy about this. Like, even though those K-State family Facebook group people are going to think that he's like, I don't know, airlifting like Christmas presents to like children. I don't know, like it, but it's still on paper a good hire. But I do share some of your reservations. I don't want to make that sound like I don't think it's a good hire, because that doesn't represent how I feel. But it is something that's on my mind as, like a potential con to the hire, that he doesn't have head coaching experience, which I think we'd feel more free to say that if his name wasn't Colin Klein and it was just, Joe Schmo, who was quarterback for like Pitt or for UCLA.
Dog, if we hired Kenny Pickett, yes, I would be concerned.
Yeah. So, but he has been just objectively a really great offensive coordinator, and he was that at K-State, and that has continued at Texas A&M as well. Last year, they had kind of a revolving door at quarterback due to injuries, and they put together a respectable offense. And Marcel Reed is one of, he's obviously a great quarterback, but I don't think people talk enough about the development job that Colin Klein has had with Marcel Reed, taking Marcel from really being a completely unsought lower division prospect to kind of taking the reins of one of the best offenses in college football, and then throw in attracting some really great talent like KC Concepcion and Mario Craver. And they have weapons all over that offense, and he uses them effectively. And I think also people need to evolve their understanding of Klein's offensive philosophies as well. At Texas A&M, they don't really kind of bulldoze the quarterback that much. Honestly, we probably do that more than they do. That's just not their game at Texas A&M. They throw a traditional run, but quarterback run, they do it. But I think people have in their heads that because Colin Klein was a bulldozer, that all of his quarterbacks are going to be bulldozers. But Klein, I think, went to the Snyder school of adjust to the personnel that you have when it comes to offense. For example, Jake Waters was like an air raid quarterback that had a Tyler Lockett and a Curry Sexton to throw to. So adjust your playbook. At the same time, the next year, he had a Joe Huebner who was a very effective blunt instrument for the offense. So, I think Klein is in a good spot there to have those sort of ideals kind of drilled into him, where he is willing to adjust. And he's been a good student for both Bill Snyder and for Chris Klieman, and now for Mike Elko. So he has learned from three really, really highly respected coaches. So he doesn't have the head coach experience for sure, but he has spent time with three fantastic head coaches. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a better cerebral mind in the history of college football than Bill Snyder. And then two very successful coaches in their own right, and Chris Klieman and Mike Elko. So there's definitely, I think, room for criticism and just caution, I suppose, and pumping the brakes on Klieman, while at the same time, highlighting his qualities and outside of just being a K-State guy, because every conversation about who should we bring in as assistant coaches is just like a revolving list of good K-State players from that position. Like, Jordy Nelson's not going to be the receivers coach.
No.
He is an assistant high school basketball coach for the Riley County girls basketball team. He is not going to make the jump to Power 4 football in one off season.
I don't think he wants to.
I don't think he wants to either. I think he's perfectly happy coaching high school girls basketball, farming, and handing out fines for the NFL.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about staff retention before roster retention, because I think that roster retention is a lot more tenuous. I really think that there are only two people on staff right now that I would bet money on retaining their position at K-State. Well, not their position. There's only one that I feel confident would retain their position. There's one that I think would be on staff and just change positions. I think that Matthew Middleton will probably stay as the wide receivers coach if he doesn't get moved somewhere else. And then I think Brian LePack might stay as well. Those are like the two favorites. If it were up to me, I would keep Buddy Wyatt, because I think Buddy Wyatt has been very, very good for K-State. Everyone else, I mean, the biggest omission there would be Joe Klanderman. I think that Joe Klanderman might find himself on like G5 or high FCS boards, and I think that he may. I'm not saying that he'd get fired. I am saying that I don't think he's going to be the DC next year, and I think that he kind of knows that. But everyone else, I think, on staff is fair game to get. I mean, the Wells brothers are rest in peace. They're gone. Like they ain't coming back.
I don't think Klein's bringing back Luke Wells.
No.
Breaking news here, everybody.
Yeah. Middleton's the one I feel best about. LePack is a close second. I think everyone else is fair game. And I know the name that everyone keeps throwing out for the DC is Blake Seiler, who's at Old Dominion right now. There's also another name that I think is more insider information than is out publicly. I think people have mentioned it in public, but just to err on the side of caution. Why? Okay, not why, but like how, what, who, where, why. Just a lot of confusing questions to go with the second name. But I don't know. Do you think anyone is safe on the staff to be retained?
No, I don't think so. And I'm really fine with that. I think it's entirely possible that he'll keep a few people around, especially kind of more in the like staffer spots, unless he just has like a guy that he just wants. Like, I suppose if we want to expand it to staff, I think Taylor Bratt's safe.
Oh, Bratt's not leaving. You would have to kill him before he doesn't take that job.
Like, I think Bratt would be more likely to just retire if he was told that like he wasn't coming back. But I think he's a pretty valuable resource, especially for in-state recruiting. So I think Bratt's safe. But like for the like officially designated like paid coaches, I don't think I'd classify anybody as safe. Probably, like some of them it's probably performance related, but some of them it may not be they're bad coaches. It's just that like Klein has somebody, and like or he just like wants to do something a little different. Like I think that you're on the right track though with LePack and Middleton either being safe or the closest to safe out of anyone on the current staff. Outside of those two, I'm not sure. Just Middleton is like the only receiver coach that's stuck at K-State. And LePac was kind of Klein's guy in the press box while the two were here at the same time. So it's possible that Klein may keep LePac, maybe not as offensive line coach, but may offer him like tight ends coach again, or I guess maybe he'd offer him an analyst spot, but I don't know if he would take it, because that'd be a pretty significant pay decrease and like an obvious demotion. But I think Klein would be interested in keeping LePac and maybe Middleton. But yeah, I think outside of that, I'm not sure. Maybe Brian Anderson, because they overlapped like the whole time that they were here. I'm definitely more keen to say that there might be some offensive guys that he might be willing to keep. But at the same time, it's really hard to say because, he spent 2 years making connections with the A&M staffers that we just aren't going to be as familiar with. And then also coaches throughout the SEC. He's probably spent a good chunk of time making connections with that we just don't know about. So a lot of stuff to consider there. But I'm very curious how that all plays out and how quickly those names kind of get rolled out.
Yeah. I will say that I don't. Oh boy, time to make an enemy. I don't want it to be filled with former K-State players because I think that there's a lot of confirmation bias that, former players who go, and I know what I'm about to say, and I know who the head coach hires. Just listen. I think that 9 times out of 10, bringing back former players, no matter if they were good, bad, like if they were all conference players, I think 9 times out of 10, bringing them back to coach at their alma mater is a terrible idea. Because say they could be a fine position coach, and now you have, say the group is underperforming, you have to be the guy that says you fired a former player. To me, that risk is just simply not worth it unless it's a known commodity as a coach. So I agree with you. I think that I will be fascinated to see who, if anyone, follows Klein from A&M. I mean, Josh Buford probably will because he followed Klein from K-State to A&M. So I would almost the one I feel best about is Josh Buford being on staff. That's the number one thing, and the only person that I would say that is not currently on staff that I think it is likely to be on next year. Like I said, I will be sad to see Buddy Wyatt not come back if he doesn't, because I think he's done a great job recruiting, and I think he's done a great job with development of defensive ends. But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how the staff gets put together. And after we talk about the staff, I'll give you last words on that. We can talk about the roster because if we don't know about the staff, God knows about the roster.
Yeah, I'll finish up by saying I totally agree with you on the stuff about former players. I think it comes out in discourse so often because I think most fans just don't really know the coaching pool outside of the people that they currently have on staff. I mean, I don't even mean that as a slight or anything to sports fans. That's just kind of the average sports fan isn't going to know all of the coordinators and assistants and staffers. Most do not know that. It'd be like going to your local AMC, picking someone out of the theater and being like, "Hey, who was the assistant director on this movie?" Pretty much no one's gonna know. They're gonna know the director, the writers, maybe a producer, if it's a big name, and then the actors. That's it. It's very similar with football, especially because they have huge staffs. But it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a staff that's comprised of Darren Sproles and Jordy Nelson and Eric Wolford, although he's actually a really great offensive line coach. He's going to LSU with Lane Kiffin, and was previously at Kentucky for a long time. We want to talk about K-State connections. That would be interesting. Mark Stoops is on the job market. And obviously Bob is here for a while.
So what I'm hearing is we're getting Bob Stoops out of retirement. He's going to stop coaching the Renegades to come be like a defensive analyst for Colin Klein.
Moving up in the world, Bob. So, it's going to be mostly like guys that we don't know. In fact, a lot of times, great players aren't necessarily great coaches. Like it's not like a 1-to-1 deal. Like if that was the truth, then like every Heisman winner would be like an incredible coach.
Imagine getting coached by Johnny Manziel.
No, and I don't want
to. You just refuse to participate in that thought.
I'm not engaging in your bait, sir. But yeah, I'm curious. There's probably be a few A&M people that come up. There's might be a few that stick around from K-State, but I imagine we're going to be kind of pulling people from all over. Some are going to have K-State connections, I bet. But just because they played at K-State doesn't mean that they'll be a good coach. That does not mean, though, that we're saying that no coach can have K-State connections, obviously, because Colin Klein will probably be the head coach. That would be very hypocritical of us to say, but he has proven himself outside of K-State to be a quality coach. So I think that's fair game. Yeah. That should be the standard, I guess.
Yeah. Brian Kelly should not be the standard. Lane Kiffin should also not be the standard.
Yes. Bad person and murderer. Like, not the standard.
Not in that order, by the way. Brian Kelly did kill a kid. Not directly. He didn't use his hands, but, he refused water breaks at Notre Dame. Not to bring this down, but every time Brian Kelly gets mentioned, I feel obligated to mention that fact because I think people, mostly Brian Kelly, wants you to forget that. And I quite simply am not willing to let that happen. And then Lane Kiffin is he's just
a weirdo.
He's just weird. But
also, one more thing on that. Brian Kelly gets a lot of crap, understandably so, and deservedly so, for killing a kid. DJ Durkin does not get the same amount of crap for also killing a kid. And people, for some reason, really care with Brian Kelly and, do not care with DJ Durkin, and it kind of bothers me.
That's another big soapbox to get on. I feel like, being responsible for the death of someone should disqualify you from good person consideration, unless it was a true accident.
Yeah. DJ Durkin and the Maryland staff, it was not an accident.
No.
It's maybe not intentional, but accident implies that, I don't know, they took a little bit more care.
Yeah, anyway. So in terms of player retention, who knows in this given era? I think the big one that everyone is obviously going to look towards is Avery, especially with you mentioning it earlier. Oh, he's going to use the quarterback as a battering ram. No, didn't do that with Marcel Reed. I don't know. I think that a lot of the roster, I think a lot of the offensive pieces will stick around because a lot of the core of this offensive roster was recruited by Klein outside of, obviously the newer faces. I think if you're going to see subtractions, you'll see them more on the defensive side of the ball. But even then, I think that you'll retain you'll retain the true core of that defense. So Toby, Romaine, probably Bartley will stay as well, just because, where would he go? But he's young, still up and coming, and I think has the potential to be a part of the core. So I think if you're going to see, I don't think you're going to see a mass exodus because, again, I think that not everyone, but most people that were recruited by K-State, at least that are currently on roster, in some way interacted with Colin Klein, with the rare exception of like maybe this class, because he was still, recruiting goes years out. They know who Colin Klein is. So yeah, that's pure speculation. And, who knows with how the portal is. We've already had 3 entries, 2 people leaving the team, 1 person transferring out. The true comedy outcome, and again, I'm going to make some enemies, is Dylan Edwards decides to come back.
Yeah, that would, I'd without a doubt laugh if that happened. It won't be, but it would be.
It's not going to happen, but it'd be hilarious.
Yeah. I'm kind of stuck on personnel and potential changes there. I imagine it's not going to be as drastic as we've seen at other schools, unless Klein really wants to just do like a major overhaul. But yeah, it's not going to be like some of these schools where they have like 70 new players come in or something like that. Like, I don't think we're going to see that. I do think we'll see turnover, but that's pretty natural anyways. But it might just be more than average, especially with maybe some of the younger guys that came in with Klieman and his staff that aren't familiar with Klein. And we may even see some older guys leave too, if they just like don't like their position coach. Like, if they get a new one, or they maybe were just planning to anyways. That's going to be tough to project until there's more of a staff in place. But yeah, we'll see some departures, but that's at the very least not abnormal anymore. Like, obviously all eyes, I think, will be on Avery, and if he's staying, he indicated that he was, and after the Colorado game, I don't know if he was aware of all this or not, but I guess TBD on if that changes anything. I know Klein was originally who recruited him here to K-State, and so that'll be something to monitor. And then there will be other guys like Lincoln Cure, someone to keep an eye on. Then Jace Brown, portal, draft, or stay. That'll be interesting. Austin Romaine, of course, like you said. There's some big names that we'll have to think about, and if they're going to stick around or not, because it feels like a bit of a TBD situation for most of them, because we're just very early in this process being more public. There's not a lot of steam on assistants or anything, so I mean, we haven't even announced Klein yet, so.
Well, Gene doesn't have his number. Like, you'll have to find the number.
Well, somebody should get it to him. So.
Immediately after the press conference, I did get a phone call from a 785 number. I wonder if I should have picked up.
It's just going to be Gene. He's going to be like, oh, sorry, wrong number. My fault.
I was like, no. This is the right number.
Yes, it's me, Colin Klein.
This is me.
I love Peach Cobbler. It's my favorite.
Also, I think we're done with the news portion of this. I just wanted to get this funny little tidbit out. I saw a picture like 2 days ago. It wasn't even 2 days ago. It was yesterday, of Colin Klein standing next to Chris Klieman. I forgot how tall Colin Klein is, because Klieman's like 5'10", 5'11". So he's about my height. And then you just have Colin Klein, who's like looking at the top of Klieman's head in that picture.
Yeah, like Klein's like 6'4", 6'5", and he's also very slender as well. So that makes him look even taller. But yeah, no, like, it's easy to forget that Klieman's like not like, I think he's shorter than that. I think he's like 5'9", 5'8", maybe. Like, he's kind of short.
Yeah,
but also he was a defensive back, so
that's like more conducive to being shorter in stature.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, very exciting time to be a K-State fan. We had to get this episode out. The episode that we'll release on Friday will be covering signing day stuff and more normal weekly recap. So the only good thing that we will be covering in that episode is National Signing Day. God, we needed a palate cleanser, and it seems that we've got it. So all the best wishes in the world to Coach Klieman, and let's see how the beginning of the Klein era goes.
I know. Very excited. We were just talking on the episode like 2 days ago. We were like, yeah, I guess the ship has sailed on Klein this year. Hopefully he's still available next year. And we are like half a week removed from that. And by the end of the week, it's possible that we're going to have completely like done a 180 flip on that. So just goes to show how fast things can really change, and how fast these like coaching deals can really come together in modern college football, unless you're Penn State. But in our case,
in which case, crumble cookies.
Funniest Mormon moment of all time, I fear. But
yeah, whoever left the crumble cookies at the door of the football facility in Happy Valley,
yeah.
I want you to know that you're very funny. We will never know who you are, but if we ever do, I want to shake your hand.
Yeah. Virginia Tech had crumble cookies at their signing day presser today too.
So,
yep. Which they're on the rise. Shout out to James Franklin. He's really hitting the ground running there. But yeah, Penn State.
Maybe we can pull James Franklin.
Do you think we could do like a co-head coach deal with James Franklin and Colin Klein? Like
no. It'd be funny, but no.
Klein gets like weekends and holidays, and Franklin gets them during the week.
I think there's a better chance of Raheem Morris coming back as DC.
I think you're probably right, but yeah.
Let's not do that. But
I'm out of bits. I have no more.
Yeah, I don't have any more bits either. So thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggieVilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I'm at ACEdward00.
I'm at Connor Balsor, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store. Link found in our podcast and Twitter bio. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.